you like a good roast, you've come to the right place because Coach Pat Kilby and I are about to roast ourselves by telling you just how poorly we did in our bold predictions for last year. 19-1 in ACC play, not even close.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, July 11th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch to kick your weekend off the right way. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us. Special shout out to the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord and the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. We'd love to have you join those groups. Links are in the show notes. Come hang out. With me today on the show, Coach Pat Kilby, our guy. It's so great to be together. And as we get into the summer, man, it is time where we're about to get into our roster preview series. If you've been a regular with us the past several years, you know that's an annual thing. Well, speaking of annual things, last fall was Pat Kilby's and my third annual Bold Predictions episode on October 30th. And that is, Pack, we should have known. All Hallows Eve, we should have known it was guaranteed to go poorly. So that means this is our third annual Bold Predictions review. As a reminder, bold predictions are the type of thing that we should not get right. They should be bold so that we are really reaching for our predictions. But there is still a shred of possibility with it. A lot of times there are multiple pieces to a bold prediction that you got to get right. And boy, we might have gotten one or two here or there, but so what we're going to do is we're about to embarrass ourselves in front of all of you by telling you how horribly we did looking back and reviewing. We also had a Locked On Tar Heel Insider bold prediction as well from Andrew Estes, who funnily enough did better than Pack or I with his prediction. So there you go, a little Seth Trimble prediction coming at you. Pack and I each made 3 bold predictions, and so we're just going to give them to you in the order that we did them on the show that day, starting with Pat Kilby. I'm just going to laugh at all of these, Pack, because, yeah. So Pack's first bold prediction was that Carolina, it's 3 parts, would win the ACC regular season back-to-back, would go 19-1, and that one loss was not going to come against Duke. Pack, here's how you did. Carolina finished tied for 4th with Wake and SMU. They were the 5 seed after tiebreakers. The record was 13-7, so just 6 games off. And, of course, Carolina lost to Duke both times they played them in the regular season. Pack, what do you make of your bold prediction?
There's not a lot to make of it. It was bad. But, here's the one thing I'll say. When we were going into the season last year, you and I and a lot of other people, a lot of other Tar Heels fans, viewed this team differently than what we do now. We were kind of riding more of a high. We were thinking, now, there were some concerns because we lost Harrison. We lost Cormac. We were losing pieces. But the thing is like we got RJ back. Cade Tyson committed, and we thought he was going to be a really nice piece. There were just things about this team we thought they were going to be better than what they were. We were taking another step with Seth. Drake was coming in. Ian was coming in. We were thinking, wow, this is going to be a team where we're really guard heavy. We score the ball and we're just unstoppable.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the case. And that prediction backfired real quick because we really ACC play is what stands out the most to me as just like could never get a rhythm, could never get a flow, could never get anything going.
Until that closing stretch.
We finally did. And that was a bit of an easier slate there.
It was.
And we took advantage of it, so that was good for us. But before then, it felt like, win a game, lose a game. Win a game, lose a game. Just real inconsistent. And obviously not good enough to go 19-1 and have that one loss not be Duke.
Yes. But as you said, like anytime we make these predictions, it's not just like we're just pulling it out of thin air. We're trying to base it in some sort of observable or statistical or predicted like legitimacy. And I think there was a world where if the guards hit like they should have, if Cade Tyson, who we'll get to with another of our bold predictions, just did what he did at Belmont, and if any of the bigs had been what they needed to be out of the gate, Carolina would have been, I don't know if it would have been 19-1, but with how bad the ACC was, with where Louisville was right up there at the top, with where Clemson was right there at the top, no reason to think Carolina couldn't have done that as well, at least have been like 16-4, 17-3, right? And so I think there's a world where that reality could come true, Pack.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I was just sitting here thinking while you were talking, the big question mark going into last year, for, at least in my mind, was the post play.
Yeah.
And a lot of our conversation and a lot of the, Discord comments and things were centered around Jalen Washington. And a lot of us were betting on him being better than what he was for us.
Yeah.
And that was another miss right there, that contributed to us not even getting close to 19-1. So lots of things that didn't hit that we needed to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of pieces to that needed a lot of variables that all could have come together, but a lot of them didn't. All right, Pack's second bold prediction. This was my first one, and my bold prediction was that Ian Jackson was going to lead Carolina in free throw attempts last year. The reason being, as I recall laying it out on the show, was that because of his size, because we thought he would play with the ball in his hands a lot, because of his attacking style, because of how he played, it just made a lot of sense. When we did this episode, Pack, we were just coming off one of the exhibition games. I can't remember if it was Johnson C. Smith or if it was the Memphis game, but he was like, I think he went like 8 of 10 at the free throw line or something like that, if I remember correctly. Well, Pack, Ian was 4th on the team in free throw attempts. RJ led the way at 165, Seth at 140, Elliott 97, Ian 94. So very close to 3rd. Pack, I think had Ian not been played out of favor down the stretch of the season, had he continued to find ways to be hot like he was in that 6 and 7 game stretch early in ACC play, particularly it was when Seth went out with his injury was when that triggered. He just didn't have that. And the staff, I think, just didn't trust him and so didn't play him as much. Had they done so, I don't think he would have jumped Seth and RJ, but would have jumped RJ, probably would have finished with 110, 115 free throws. And so I think a lot of this is Ian just never fully became what we expected him to become. More to say on that later in the show, but yeah, Pack, just not as impactful as anticipated. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think there's several things that contributed to it, what you said, but I also think, the offense just got really stagnant. And one of the things that Ian was good at was attacking gaps and getting to the paint. But there just weren't, a whole lot of gaps for him to attack. It felt like the ball didn't move a lot. We were just real stagnant. And the other thing that I'll throw out there is Ian settled a lot too. Now, I don't know that these things would, add up to make him the number 1 free throw shooter on our team. But I think, the combination of the ball not moving and bodies not moving like we would want them to, and him settling some for some bad shots would if he would have fixed those things, if those things would have been better, we might be talking about a different story here.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. But it did not play out that way. And so here we sit with a whole bag of missed bold predictions, Pack. And that's where we are. Up next, Pack had a Drake Powell postseason award prediction that, frankly, Drake didn't even qualify for. And I suggested that RJ Davis would do something, along with Cade Tyson, that RJ had literally never done before. We'll unpack those in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility of and control over all your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, all your investments, and all your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And isn't that what we're all trying to do, both for ourselves and for our future generations? Man, that's great. And I'm so glad Monarch's there to help. Something I found that I really love about Monarch is having everything financial all right there in one app. So instead of having to remember to use a whole bunch of different financial apps or having a folder full of them on my phone, I just go straight to Monarch and that's that. That makes managing the day-to-day of it so much easier. So take control of your finances as well at Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Pack, we're moving into our second set of bold takes. Here's your second one. Drake Powell wins ACC Sixth Man of the Year award. Pack, what's the problem here?
Well, the problem is he doesn't qualify for it because he ended up starting. So in a lot of ways, I'll take that.
Yeah, right.
It's like I missed on that prediction, but in a good way because he ended up, over excelling in that area and becoming a starter for us and started too many games to qualify for that. So yeah. I'll take that miss. I do think, though, going into the season, we were kind of more so projecting a different, like maybe Seth Trimble at the 3 with Elliott and RJ at the 1 and 2 and Drake coming off the bench. But obviously that changed over time and Drake ended up being a starter for us and doing a really good job. So no complaints on that.
I wish we could see more. Like if we had the season-long version of that lineup with Elliott, RJ, Drake, Jay Witt, and Van Allen, how things would have gone. I don't know that it would have been wildly better. But with Seth coming off the bench, Ian coming off the bench, how would things have gone? I don't know, but would have liked to see it. Yeah, it's funny. Drake ends up starting the third most games on the team, Pack, with 24, behind only RJ and Elliott Cadeau. Here's the other funny thing, Pack. You may or I didn't remember this until I went back to look it up. In the actual ACC Sixth Man of the Year voting, the winner was Jeremiah Wilkinson from Cal. Second was Duncan Powell. Funny, a Powell was second in this from Georgia Tech. Third in Sixth Man of the Year voting, Captain Jack. How about that one?
Wow, yeah, I didn't realize that either. And that's a little shocking too, just because of, in my mind, when I think back on the season, his season was very up and down.
Yeah.
So when I think of him, I didn't think of, he would be that close in the race, but he did. He had some stellar moments too, that probably put him right there in contention. So that's pretty neat.
Pat, here's if your last bold prediction was wrong because the player did better than anticipated, mine is wrong because, oh boy, Pack, that's where we're at with this one. Here's my bold prediction. Both RJ Davis and Cade Tyson will shoot 40% or better from 3. The funny thing is, Cade Tyson had never not shot better than 40% from 3 in his 2 years at Belmont. RJ had literally never shot better than 40% from 3. Pack, this fell flat on its face.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't even have any positive or encouraging words for you there. It fell flat on its face.
Yeah.
And Cade, you're right though. It was such a surefire thing. And, I remember us even having discussions on here about can playing at Belmont and the success that he had there, can it translate up to North Carolina? And my answer was, yeah, absolutely it can. He can shoot. Shooting is the one thing that always translates. Well, I was wrong. I was wrong on that. It did not translate up. I don't know what happened. I don't know what all went wrong there. I don't know if it was a mental thing, if it was a style of play, if it was the speed of the game. Maybe it was a combination of all three. But boy, Cade was the biggest letdown to me. just because, like, I mean, exactly what you said. He had never not shot more than 40%. In fact, I think the last season he was closer to 50% than he was 40%.
I'll keep talking. I'll look it back up.
If I remember right, it was like 46.5%. But
yeah, it was like him and Kobe Brea that went to Kentucky were the two biggest in the country.
Yeah, and just totally lost it, at Carolina. So
yeah, here's the number, Pack. It was his freshman year at Belmont, 41.7% on 3.8 attempts. His sophomore year, 46.5% on 5.5 attempts. So it wasn't just the percentage; it was the volume was there too.
Yeah.
Man. So here's Cade's numbers last year, Pack. You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, man. 29.2% from 3, 14 of 48. He had just 3 games in which he made multiple three-pointers, just 7 games out of Carolina's 37, making at least 1 3. That's pretty painful. Let's talk about RJ, though, because with RJ, there was some glimmers. And the issue for RJ, as we well remember, was the first part of the year. RJ finished the season like I'm impressed he got it back up this high, Pack, if we're being honest. He finished the year. Do you remember how bad it got?
I remember thinking, man, we've got to get him going. But statistically, I don't remember how bad it got.
So Carolina played 37 games in total. Through the first 18 games, so just one shy of the halfway point there, 28% for RJ, Pack, 35 out of 125. Do you also remember, though, how far he got it back up, where he got it to in the end?
Was it 36%?
Just shy of 35.4 is where he finished, 85 out of 240. So you know what that means, Pack? Over the final 19 games of the season, homie shot 43.5% from 3. That's 50 out of 115. I mean, that turnaround is insane. What do you think? What do you think it was about that, Pack? Just from you mentioned the mental side with Cade. Was RJ just taking too much on?
Could have been. It could have been. A lot of the other team just saying we're gonna totally take him out and make life miserable for him for 40 minutes. I happen to think maybe something a little bit different, because even the year before, when he was ACC Player of the Year, teams were thinking the same thing, and he was still cooking them. So my thought is that there may have been some ongoing injuries that we don't know about. Maybe his
were an issue the year before, his junior year. That was the index finger.
Yep. And I thought about that, or shoulder, hand, elbow, something. It just didn't feel right. But when he finally got healthy, he started shooting the ball well. Now, I don't know that for sure. That's just kind of my guess, is there was something going on that we don't know about, but I could be wrong there.
Man, poor guy. I mean, it's just a tough way. I remember this happened to Marcus Page as well. He had a rough, senior year shooting the ball from 3. I feel like Kenny Williams may be the same thing, if I'm remembering correctly.
That is right. Yeah.
But dude, he was cooking so much in those final 19 games, Pack, that we talked about, where he shot 43.5. He made multiple threes, 15 of those 19 games. He made at least 3 threes 12 times in those 19 games. And in the final 12 games, Pack, he made at least 3 threes in 8 of the final 12 games of this season. I mean, it's just, when RJ got back going, it was in fuego, man. It was great to see. Hated his career to end the way it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Pack, we got to keep going because we got 3 bold predictions to wrap in the final segment. One more set of embarrassment for us while we tell you about Andrew Estes showing us both up by nearly landing a Seth Trimble prediction with perfection. We'll wrap the show in just a second. All right, Pack, let's wrap the show. Before we sing Andrew Estes' praises, let's bash ourselves one more time. By the way, I just... in between segments, we were just commiserating with poor Cade Tyson. Really, really hope he's able to get it back this year up at Minnesota. There's just a parade of Tar Heels now that go to be Golden Gophers. So that's where we're at. All right, Pack, here it was your third and final bold prediction. North Carolina is going to the Final Four for the second time in the Hubert Davis tenure. Pack, did that happen?
No. No. We were lucky to make the tournament. And then once we did, the entire country said that it was rigged and that North Carolina was only in because it was a big name brand.
And because Bubba was the chair of the selection
because
committee.
Bubba was on the chair, yeah. And which that's all bogus, but that was the narrative. And then, we played really well in the play-in game.
Well, I mean, might have been the best they played all year against San Diego State. Pack.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
It really was. And I think a lot of it might have been because of the narrative, that was painted. And then obviously losing the round of 64 game to Ole Miss. This team didn't do enough in the regular season to set themselves up for postseason success. Not that we were going to make the Final Four necessarily, but we really didn't even give ourselves a shot. When you're coming in as an 11 seed, you're going to have to dig your way out. And I just think that was really too tough for us to do, especially with the team that we had. But we did make a decent run down the stretch and found our way in the tournament and did some things, but definitely not the second Final Four of Hubert Davis.
And yet again, almost mounted a miracle comeback against Ole Miss in that first round. Pack. It would have been crazy. So there you go. All right. My final bold prediction was that Drake Powell and Ian Jackson were both going to be lottery picks in the 2025 NBA draft, and that Drake Powell would be drafted higher than Ian Jackson. For those who don't follow the draft, the first 14 picks are the lottery. Pat Kilby. Very obviously, neither of these guys ended up going in the lottery, so strike one there. But you know what was true, Pack? Drake was drafted higher than Ian Jackson, so I'm going to take a little pat on the back for that one. What do you say?
Absolutely. We need all the pats on the back we can get.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, it's still kind of befuddling that he ends up being a multi-year player, right? Up at St. John's now. Drake goes first round, 22nd overall to the Hawks, got traded to the Nets. And so really, really interesting. Pack, curious to see what happens with Ian this year up at St. John's.
I'm really curious about it too. I think there's a world where Ian becomes a very good college basketball player. He's obviously going to play for a really good coach. But, when Ian came to Carolina, he was in mock drafts, pretty much in everyone's mock draft. He was a lottery pick. And, here's the deal I'll say, in my opinion. A lot of people will look at this and they will blame Hubert Davis and staff and say, wow, we took a lottery pick and we turned him into a transfer to St. John's, Now, I don't totally agree with that. I think the way the NBA is trending, Ian Jackson might just not fit into that, at least not that high in the draft, not lottery pick status. Now, I could eat my words on that. I don't know. But I think he's going to turn into a solid player at St. John's. I don't know how well he projects to the NBA. Whereas Drake has all the things that they're looking for right now. The length, the size, the explosiveness, the 3-and-D. He shot it pretty well from three. He obviously is a great defender. So he does some things really well. And although he wasn't a lottery, still a first rounder comfortably.
No.
And that was great to see. I think everybody here is probably a huge Drake fan. But yeah, I'll be very intrigued to see what happens with Ian moving forward.
Yep. I'm still a little about the point guard experiment that Rick Pitino is going to play, but we'll see what happens. All right, Pack. Let's wrap the show with Andrew Estes, who is one of our Locked on Tar Heels insiders. By the way, again, as a reminder, if you aren't part of the Locked on Tar Heels insiders, we'd love to have you. That link is in the show notes. Here was Andrew's bold prediction. Seth Trimble sets a new career high in points 4 times. Now, Pack, there's 2 different ways to interpret this bold prediction. By the way, Seth's previous career high was 12 points. You could say, on one hand, are there 4 times in the season where he scores more than 12 points? If that's the way you interpret this question, Seth slayed this bold prediction because he got more than 12 points 14 times, Pack, including the first 6 games in a row. And then he tied 12 a further 4 times. So he either tied or bettered his previous career high 18 times this season, Pack. And when you factor in, well, we'll get to that in a second. Now, if you want to interpret this question as, did he set a new career high like Mark? Did he raise the bar 4 times? Came so close. Did it 3 times, Pack. Set a new career high in game 1 against Elon, 15 points. A new career high in game 2 against Kansas, 19 points. And another new career high in game 5 against Dayton. Good grief, what a game against Dayton, including that 3 that was against Michigan State. Never mind. But just went off, had 27 points. It was FedEx round 2, FedEx Forum round 2 all over again. But then never was able to top 27, and understandably so, man. That's a great, Seth Trimble scored 27 points, Pack. That's great stuff. How much, had he not suffered that head injury and that cost him 3 games, where he wasn't the same player when he came back as he was prior to that, do you think he would have done it again and eclipsed 27?
Gosh, I don't know. Probably not, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously showed flashes of being a really good scorer this year. And we knew that might be coming after that Memphis exhibition. If I remember right, he went for 30 something. I mean, he just lit it up. So if we count that, he set 1 career high and didn't top that again. But
that was RJ didn't play because of that injury he suffered in the blue-white scrimmage.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I don't know that he scores 27, but like I said, it's definitely a possibility just because he showed flashes of being, an electric scorer. Now, we can all have our fingers crossed that he breaks 27 a couple times this upcoming season.
Hey, that would be something. Maybe that needs to be one of our what ifs when we get to What If Wednesdays right before the season starts.
Yep.
All right, man. I love that. Yeah, I mean, looking at that injury, pre-injury, he scored double figures in 11 of his 12 games, and the one in which he didn't, he got 9. He also shot 38.5% from 3, 15 of 39. Pack, after his injury, he only got to double figures 13 out of 22 games, and his 3-point percentage was 18.2%. So, I mean, there's a clear delineation between pre-injury Seth and post-injury Seth last year. Very, very hopeful that he can find his way back, find, whatever it is, whether it was mental or physical stuff, and that he's going to be good to go. From what we've seen in camp scrimmages, it looks like he's hopefully found that back.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. He's, I think he's in for a big year. I'll just leave it at that. We can talk about it in player previews, but I think Seth's going to have a big year. Yeah,
man. Speaking of which, Pack and I are going to start our player preview series, man. It's coming. We'll go every week, one by one, through the entire roster. We'll probably have to hold off on Luka till he's actually here and ready to go. But that'll be good. Man, it's always fun to go back through these, Pack. As painful as it is, it's just such a hilarious exercise to me. We will have our 4th annual bold predictions coming at all of you later in the season, Pack. It was funny throughout the day on Tuesday as we were preparing or on Wednesday as we were preparing for this. A lot of folks in the Discord were sharing their bold predictions that went wrong. So that was a lot of fun to look back on some of those too. And so that's great stuff. So folks, we'd love to hear from you. Do you remember any of your bold predictions and how did they turn out? Also, we'd love for you to share us as we get to our bold predictions for this upcoming season. We'd love for you to share those with us as well. You can do that in that Locked On Tar Heels Discord. It's free to join, links in the show notes. Again, if you want to go even deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where you get access to all of my stats and charts and data and record books, where you can find data like all of what we talked about today. That link is also in the show notes. We'd love to have you join. If you've not subscribed to the show, that's a great way to keep tabs. Make sure you're always up to date on Locked On Tar Heels. Again, we're coming at you every day of the week, even in the summer. Great stuff. Y'all, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday. Have a great weekend, but until then, Pack, tell them.
Peace.